Thank you for listening to Scandinavian Crimes Podcast. Be sure to check out the episode links and be part of our other social media platforms where you can leave a topic suggestion or even share some of your insights regarding the subject matter of the episode. We will always do our best to provide a well-researched episode, but sometimes due to limited access to information and translation issues, some information can be lost. It is therefore good to do your own research and get a deeper understanding of a case of your own interest. So with that all said, let us start today's episode.
Welcome to another episode of Scandinavian Crimes. My name is Devante, and say hello to my lovely co-host, Delila.
Hi.
And on this podcast, we will cover famous Scandinavian criminals who made their mark throughout Scandinavian history. So today we are going to be covering a very controversial figure who's been the center of international attention for over a decade. Some consider him a hero, a champion of free speech and transparency, while others see him as a criminal and a threat to national security and a danger to diplomatic relations. Today, we're going to discuss the allegations against Julian Assange and his role in the world of cybersecurity. This episode will be formatted just a little bit differently for two reasons. One, this case is technically still ongoing, and two, this case involves the United States and their whole national security. So be mindful of this because this discussion at the end of it will be pretty juicy. So the story itself is not super long, well, in terms of how it's written, but the information that's involved in this will be something that I'm pretty sure a lot of you would love to know and basically you love to discuss. So instead of it being formatted like a story, this is more like a condensation of information regarding something that is currently ongoing. So just sit back, grab your snacks, listen tightly as we discuss the journalist, Julian Assange. Julian Assange is an Australian computer programmer and journalist who founded the organization WikiLeaks. He gained notoriety in 2010 when his organization released a series of classified documents related to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as confidential diplomatic cables. In 2012, he sought asylum in the Embassy of Ecuador in London to avoid extradition to Sweden, where he was wanted for questioning over sexual assault allegations. The allegations were made by two women in Sweden who claimed that Assange had sexually assaulted them during their visit in the country in 2010. Assange denied the allegations and said they were politically motivated. Assange stayed at the embassy for 7 years until 2019 when the Ecuadorian government withdrew his asylum status and allowed British police to arrest him. In 2017, Sweden dropped the investigation into the sexual assault allegations against Assange, citing that they was unable to proceed due to Assange's asylum at the embassy. However, after Assange's arrest, Sweden reopened the investigation in May 2019. The investigation was later dropped again in November 2019, with the prosecutor citing that the evidence was not strong enough to charge Assange. Since then, Assange has been fighting extradition to the United States, where he faces multiple charges related to the publication of classified documents. The United States argued that Assange's publication of classified documents endangered national security and put lives at risk. They say that he is not a journalist but a hacker, and he conspired with former Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning to obtain the classified information. Assange's defense team, on the other hand, argues that he is just a journalist who was exercising his right to free speech and that the charges against him were politically motivated. Some cybersecurity experts believe that Assange's actions raise some important ethical questions about the role of journalism in the digital age. While some agree that transparency is crucial to a functioning democracy, they also believe that there are limits to what should be made public. The release of classified information can have serious consequences, including endangering the lives of individuals and compromising national security. At the same time, they think the charges against Assange are problematic because they could set a precedent for prosecuting journalists who publish classified information. Julian Assange is facing multiple charges in the United States related to the publication of classified documents on WikiLeaks. The charges include conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. This charge is related to allegations that Assange conspired with Chelsea Manning, a former Army intelligence analyst, to hack into a government computer system to obtain classified documents. Unauthorized disclosure of national defense information. So this charge is related to the publication of those classified documents on WikiLeaks that contain sensitive national defense information, as well as conspiracy to obtain and disclose national defense information. This charge is related to the allegations of Assange conspiring with Manning to obtain and publish classified information. And the final, theft of government property. This charge is related to allegations that Assange aided and abetted Manning in stealing government property, naming classified information that was later published on WikiLeaks. There are several theories regarding Julian Assange and his actions, particularly in relation to publications of classified documents on WikiLeaks. Here are some of the theories that are floating around regarding his case. Assange is a champion of transparency and free speech. Some believe that Assange's actions were motivated by the desire to expose the government and corporate wrongdoing to promote transparency and free speech. Assange is a threat to national security. Others argue that Assange's action put the lives at risk and endangered national security by publishing classified information. Another theory is that Assange is a political actor. Some suggest that Assange is a political actor who uses the publication of classified information to influence political outcomes and advance his own agenda. Another would include Assange's being targeted for his journalism. Assange's supporters argue that he is unfairly targeted for his journalism, and the charges against him are an attack on press freedom and the right to free speech. And then finally, this is one of the theories I think that are relatively not as popular, but just people who are on the, I guess, right side of the case feel about Assange. They feel that Assange is a hacker and a criminal. He's a hacker who conspired to obtain and publish classified information, and that he should be held accountable for his actions. It's also worth noting that opinions of Assange are actually divided, and his actions have been subject to much debate and controversy over the last 10 years. The rape allegations against Julian Assange triggered a lot of these events to develop the way that they did. Also, the charges were randomly and abruptly dropped without any particular reason twice. So after hearing all this information, all these theories, and the reasoning in which why he released his information in theory, it seems like the rape allegations were just a way to kind of discredit anything he had to say, at least according to some people. So my question to the audience is, do you believe Julian Assange is someone who is a pioneer, someone who is championing the ability of free speech, or is he a criminal and a danger to national security? Okay, so once again, I know that format was very, very, very weird. And like I said, it's not very long. The story itself is only about maybe 5 or 6 minutes, so the episode may not be long. But this is a good episode to discuss how even some crimes, even some events that can include anything like espionage, anything related to even drugs sometimes, can be a side effect of government involvement in some way, shape, or form. So this is mostly just an example. It will kind of seem not super political or, like a progressive point of view or anything like that. But this is something that's actually a fact in the United States. So one thing that many people don't know is that back in the 50s and 60s, when, the Black Panther Party was prevalent and very, it wasn't like powerful in terms of, a party that was extremely powerful. It was the Black Panther Party was a means in which to help the Black community, especially during times when, we were not treated accordingly. So one of the things that people did not find out until relatively recent history, and I say recent history because, I include things like the 90s, late 90s and 2000s, was that the Black Panther Party was broken up due to the FBI, aka the government's involvement. Now, a lot of people don't know, not even just the United States government, but many governments, especially governments that are in cahoots with each other via the UN. That can be anywhere in Europe, Scandinavia, that can be the United States, anywhere that we have some sort of treaty of agreement of cooperation. Most governments do this, where if you are a threat to national security, if you release information, if they feel like your party or your beliefs are getting so much attention that it could potentially actually shift the direction of how things can digress, in the future, the government will actually get involved. And, this is not a secret per se. This is public information. You can look this stuff up. They had a whole movie about it, actually. What was it? The Black Klansman, I believe. No, not the Black Klansman. It was, I forgot the movie. It was the movie with Lakeith and and the actor from Get Out, I believe, there's a whole movie about it, how they sent in a black FBI agent to kind of break down the Black Panther Party. It will come to me at some point during the rest of this conversation, but the point I'm making is that it is not far-fetched to believe that the government, in order to kind of discredit some of the information that he was leaking, they would stage a sexual assault case in the country where he was in, Sweden, because Sweden and the United States, they do have some formal agreement. When I traveled over there, they barely asked me any questions. Part of the UN, that whole process. And it is possible that hey, he actually could be innocent of those charges, but also I can't recognize either, because I don't know what happened in totality, because I wasn't a part of the process in itself. But I do know it's possible. It is not nearly as far-fetched as some people may think, and it's not a conspiracy theory either. I always recommend, not just you guys, I recommend to my friends, my family, do your research. Look into, how events played out in, your country's history. And sometimes too, information can be skewed, which is why a lot of countries, unfortunately, they like to control information to make sure that, certain stories don't get told, or don't get told a certain kind of way, or certain information is not there. And the US is not above it. Europe is not above it. Unfortunately, it does happen. So the point I'm making is, I don't know what happened. I'm not trying to make that opinion for you, but I also want you to just expand your search, just be mindful that that is a possibility. So he could just be outright a criminal. He could just be a hacker. He could have just been this political actor, but also take into account, he could have been someone who was really, trying to expose something that was important, and the government got involved because they just didn't want people to know. So that's all I'm saying. But anyways, that is what I, at least, the direction of the conversation, that's where I kind of wanted to go, just to keep an open mind. But Delila, please tell me, what do you think is going on with this case in particular? Because it's very interesting. It's a very interesting case for sure. And I think it's definitely worth at least a discussion. So let me know what you think about it, and your opinions regarding Julian Assange and this whole government espionage, government conspiracy, and all that stuff. Let me know what you think.
So this case is not only focusing on the rape allegation, but the other things mentioned as well. But I do want to mention about the rape allegation, that them dropping it and wanting to do it again and then drop it again and stuff like that, it doesn't seem as a big surprise to me. In Sweden, when it comes to rape and rape trials in general, they were not really taking that seriously, or they were usually dropped because of lack of evidence. So in this case, it seemed like the first time they dropped it was because he was in another country. It was hard to get him. The other part was because there was no evidence to tie him for the charges. So to me, it could have been that he actually did something to them, and there were no evidence. So that's that. But it could have also been that it was of political reasons, because that have happened before. But to me, it doesn't, like, I wouldn't be able to tell if he did it or not based on this information. If they would have done a proper trial and everything, and they would have charged him for jail time for 10 years, that's never, that for lack of evidence, that never happens, ever. Because in Sweden, you barely get any, even if you hurt the victim, you still get a very small time in court, in jail, for that. So, and that's what Sweden is most famous for, even for today, that rape victims or victims of sexual abuse have really little justice. So I can't really tell if he did it or not based on the information that we got. But it could be political, as well. But, it's hard for me to tell. But when it came to the other arguments presented here, I actually agree with both sides, or all the sides. I do see that there could be a potential risk for journalists and him and also other people involved. But I do think free speech is important. I think that people need to know the truth so that we can learn and we can evolve as humans. And on my personal note, like for me, I don't trust governments. I think they like hide a lot of things, and for some reasons, but it could be, as they probably say, it's because of safety issues and such. But you know, we know that the government is hiding a lot of things, and I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's okay, because it always gets out years later that, oh, we did this and this was probably wrong, sorry. I don't think it's so, like, I think it's better to be truthful, open, and free speech. I think it's also legit and okay. So I do agree with all the arguments presented. I think I can agree with both sides, honestly.
Yeah, in general, this is a pretty short story, short case, not really too much going on with it. But the only small thing I will add is I know why governments don't say everything, because, you know, according to the public masses in which they are governed over, I know sometimes some information can cause mass hysteria, and as humans, sometimes we can lash out of fear. Perfectly normal reaction. So I know some things are important to not really get released to public, but other things are definitely more negotiable. But besides that, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. I'm not going to try and drag this out any longer because, like I said, it's a really short case. It's pretty straightforward. And
yeah,
it's not really anything complex or a plot twist or an M. Night Shyamalan kind of situation. It's really straightforward. So just let us know what you think, and you know, by reaching out to us, whether it be social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and also don't forget that we do have a Twitch. It will be in the link tree. You can go follow us on there as well, so that way if you want to, you know, catch up with us when we decide to start doing live, not necessarily live podcasts, but, you know, basically doing like an Scandinavian crimes after show kind of situation, then you can catch up with us and kind of talk with us in person. Well, not in person, but in a live setting where we can respond to you directly while we look at case files, interviews, and all that stuff, all that jazz. So go follow us on all the platforms, and hopefully we'll see you over there. And I don't know, how should we end it today? What food are we going to end it with today?
Churros. It's not food though.
Well, I mean, it is food. It's edible, right? You eat it, you digest it.
True.
I'll say my food was something I had the other day, which I was craving, and my dad just blessed me, was some oxtails with some rice and pea.
Oh, really?
And
that's so
some salad.
good.
It was phenomenal. I haven't had it in a long time, but it was delicious. It was, oh my gosh, it was just godsend. But that's what I'm going to end it with.
Fair.
So just good old oxtails, rice, and pea. And then I know if you're in the Scandinavian area, I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all don't really know what oxtail and rice and pea are. But, you know, trust me, if you ever come to the States, go to a nice little Jamaican restaurant.
But, like, we don't really eat it as often here.
Yeah, go to a nice little Jamaican restaurant. Or if you have some in the area, trust me, it's fire. And you will not regret it. I know a lot of African restaurants as well sell it. So African restaurants, Jamaican restaurants, fire food. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Go follow us on all the links: Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, all that. And we will catch you next week. Peace out.
Bye.